We all have a fear, dropped in a world that uses that fear to push you back from your dreams and your destiny. What does it take, Guardian? What does it take for you to become beast in your own world? Will you hit subscribe? Is this channel more than an armor build to you? Is it somebody to help you carry your own torch in life? You are a part of something, and that's what you get with the Ristofelis community. So what, it took this dramatic music. Does it work? Do you feel me, Guardian? Hit subscribe, become beast, overcome your fears, do whatever it takes to become a legend. Don't cringe too hard, Guardian. That was a joke. Sometimes I get bored editing, and when I downloaded some new music, I had to make something out of that Lord of the Rings Shire type motivational, whatever you call it, so that was just kind of a whatever moment. But today's video is sponsored by LifetimeControllers.com. Check them out. You have a control by them, then you have a 100% covered for a lifetime controller, basically. All you got to do is cover the shipping cost or maybe a recycled core fee, depending on if you have an elite controller or some kind of competitive control that you bought from them. But on top of their discounted controls, their customer support is legit. They're always willing to help out gamers, which is why they have that insane motto where they'll cover you for your entire life. And it was a complete coincidence that I recently got sponsored by them, all because of this beast community and us growing this channel, Guardian. So thanks for tuning in. Let's talk about dynamic sway reduction. So what does dynamic sway reduction actually do? One thing I don't like is when somebody tells me that it adds 5 or 10 to my accuracy. Those numbers are cool to know, but they absolutely tell me nothing. If it were a damage perk, I would want to know how much extra damage I'm doing. But when it comes to an accuracy perk, it's all about what is the gun doing that is different than it was before the perk got put on. And that's what we're going to be addressing today. So you know what is actually being unlocked in battle more than what you could do before dynamic sway reduction was added to your gun. I know a lot of people like to do the wall shooting test to test their perks and see how accurate their gun is, which is a cool idea to do. It kind of tells you what the kick pattern is and everything, but there's no magnetism involved. And it's not really that accurate when it comes to shooting it against a wall as if you were shooting it against an enemy. Once you have that magnetism involved, that's when you start noticing those points that perks add to your weapon to know how it's starting to perform. I'm going to show you the first test, which is diagonal shots towards an ad, to show exactly what the increase is with dynamic sway reduction. You'll notice how it always swings to the crit shot right towards the end of the magazine. These type of shots, when you're kind of going in at weird angles, I'll even aim away and go back, and it'll still hit that crit shot. It unlocks more of a percentage of those hit shots being landed, more than it is if I don't have dynamic sway on. I can do this over and over again, and it doesn't matter where I'm shooting. If I'm around the crit area, it's going to hit it almost every time, versus if I don't have that on. And crit shots on Vex like that are sometimes hard to pull off. Watch as I run in the middle of these ads and just start hammering the trigger down without even really looking at where I'm aiming, and that's what I'm trying to get at. It's designed for running gunners like this who use auto rifles or LMGs or submachine guns. You just hold the trigger down when you enter battle and then let the gun figure out itself as you start looking for targets while you're holding the trigger down. So you jump in the middle of battle and then it just starts finding those crucial spots. Here's a glitch that I had happen. It's not kicking at all. This only happened twice. I don't know what caused it to do it, but it looks like it's dynamic sway to the fullest because it's no reload and I'm just holding the trigger down. It doesn't do that all the time. Like I said, that was only twice out of, tons of times, but I thought that was kind of cool to add that it can happen, but it's random. This isn't a great shot, but I want to show you the kind of pull that the weapon will do right here. See how those bullets are veering off towards the enemy, even though I wasn't even aiming at him? It's almost like dynamic sway reduction will give you those lucky shots, and it increases those chances of it happening just by having that perk on all the time. Sometimes the game will just give you a headshot and you'll be like, dang, it's like the gun just happened to kick up there at the right time. And that's exactly what this does. It just makes it kick at the right time where it needs to go to finish the kill. I liked it the most on auto rifles. I like the kill clip option, and since dynamic sway is a second option on submachine guns, it would have to be a first option to go with kill clip before I would choose kill clip over it. But as far as auto rifles, I think this would be one of the main perks I would main on it. If they let this roll with any type of weapon damage perk, I will for sure main it on an auto rifle, just as long as they buff auto rifles to where I can actually use them in harder activity. But it's insane. I'm really not even trying to get crit shots here. I'm really just figuring out the weapon after I start holding the trigger down, and it's just giving me these kills. Like right there, I shouldn't have even earned that headshot. That increase goes way up in your percent of headshot kills. I thought it would be pointless to talk numbers and say, oh, it's giving you 5+ accuracy or whatever, because it doesn't really tell you anything. But if you actually know what it's doing in combat versus when you don't have this perk on, that's exactly what it does. It just unlocks all these crit shots, which is ideal for running gun combat because you don't have time to start aiming your crit shots. It kind of just lines it up for you. And if you can get this to roll with any kind of rampage or kill clip perk, especially if they buff these in Shadowkeep, you're going to have a real monster of an auto rifle in your hands, especially for console players. I'm not sure how this is going to function on PC, but on console, for those who want to spray and play, you can always count on Dynamic Sway. Alright, let's move on to targeting adjuster. So if you recently watched the Fallout Plays video, he talks about how it adds a +5 and a little bit more magnetism to weapons and goes over a well-detailed explanation of kind of what it does, but there's still a few things people are missing about targeting adjuster that I'm going to cover in this segment of the video, not to regurgitate what you may have already heard in that video, just exactly what does targeting adjuster do in combat. So the closer you are to target with any type of weapon, the more accurate you have to be. But when you get to a weapon's max range, the wider that area is, and you don't have to be nearly as accurate. I'm going to show you a counterbalance mod here. You can see that I'm really not even on the headshot sometimes, but it still will give me the crit shot, and sometimes it'll do a body shot. But as you can see here, I'm a little bit outside of the weapon's max range, and it's not going to give me nearly as many crit shots because I'm kind of farther away. But if I was to move forward a little bit, I would start hitting more of these crit shots because my box would be at its max expansion, and I would start getting that max magnetism on. Now I'm within the max range of the trackless waist, and I have the targeting adjuster on. I'm not going to fully tell you exactly what it's doing yet. I just want to show you this test so you can kind of see how this process unfolds of when you're testing it. +5 doesn't sound like it's a ton of magnetism to add to a weapon's accuracy, but I will show you exactly what that +5 does. Aside from just doing a more crit shot box or anything like that, targeting adjuster is actually in the name of it. And I'm going to show you this counterbalance mod again. But when testing counterbalance versus the targeting adjuster, the magnetism honestly feels about the same. The only difference is with that +5 from the targeting adjuster is sometimes I can feel it start pulling itself more towards the crit shot, but that sounds really obvious that that's what it's going to do. But there is still something else nobody seems to know about targeting adjuster, and that is it forms itself around the target's body, whatever part of the body you're shooting it at. You could be shooting it between the feet of an enemy, or at their head, or at their arms, or at their side, or at their chest, or anywhere, and wherever you're shooting it at, that +5 is designed for just enough to start forming its way in the shape of the body that you're shooting it at. Whether it's on a fusion rifle, or an auto rifle, or a submachine gun, that is exactly what it does. You'll see that I'm doing the same type of headshots with and without the targeting adjuster, and that's because it's still giving me that same magnetism. I can be to the left of target and still pull it over to crit shot, but if I have the +5 on, it will start pulling a little bit more, but it's really not that noticeable. I want to show you an example of how it forms itself to its body right here. So with the counterbalance mod, watch how I shoot between the legs. You'll see some of them are just going right between the legs, but you'll see it starts to kind of pull itself towards the legs and in the shape of the legs, which is naturally what all weapons are designed to do. But if you put that +5 targeting adjuster, it just does it that much better. You'll see every time I'm near the body, it starts forming itself up the leg of that body. Now let me put on the targeting adjuster and do these same type shots and watch how it starts forming its way around the body. The +5 is just enough of an accuracy buff to where you're not missing nearly as many of those where they're going in between the legs, and it's just enough to start pulling it to where every hit is going to be on the shape of the body and starts forming its way up as I start holding the trigger down more and more. Whatever part of the body you start shooting, it's going to start form-fitting its way to that part of the body. So if you have a more stable weapon and it starts shooting the leg or the chest, it's just going to keep shooting the chest and the leg more and more. But if you have a little bit more kick, it'll start kicking its way more and more up the body. As you can see with the trackless waist, it doesn't have that much stability compared to like a hand cannon, so the longer that I hold the trigger down, the more it starts forming its way up the body. But if I had a lot of stability, it would just stay on that leg the entire time and be harder and harder to get it off the leg to go up the body. You can see right there, I just hold it up and it starts form-fitting its way all the way up the body. But I'm going to show you again on a hand cannon why I don't really recommend them on them, because the more stable the hand cannon, the less you really want targeting adjuster on your hand cannon. I'm just going to show you a few more shots of this. I just hold down the trigger, and because of its lack of stability, it's always adjusting itself to the target, which also hence the name targeting adjuster. Now what I'm going to do is show you an example of a high stability weapon such as Austringer with steady rounds on it, with and without the targeting adjuster. You can see that I'm a little bit to the left of the crit shot, but it still gives me that crit shot because the natural box and the magnetism the gun has will just allow me to do that. You would think by having a +5 accuracy buff from targeting adjuster that it would allow me to go a little bit even farther to the left and still be able to maintain a crit shot, but I'm going to show you right here that that's actually not the case. What targeting adjuster's +5 does is, like I said, if you happen to hit the crit shot or a leg shot or whatever, it lets you maintain staying on the target of that leg or body or head shot or whatever, and that's what I'm going to show you right here when I do body shots without it, showing you the natural kick of the gun and how it kicks up to the headshot. By not having the targeting adjuster, especially on console, if I'm starting to hit the leg shots or the chest shots, the natural kick of the gun will allow me to easily get to the headshot and then maintain on it with its natural magnetism. But you'll see when I have targeting adjuster on and say that I start hitting the legs or the chest first, it doesn't want to let go of the legs. You see how the natural kick is kind of negated and it wants you to stay on where it hits first? That's what I'm trying to get at. I'll start shooting the legs and it won't let it kick up to the headshot as easily as if it does without the targeting adjuster, and that's why I don't like it on single shot weapons, for that simple fact. If I'm trying to be agile and not going to be as accurate on the run and gun, I don't like targeting adjuster on single shot weapons like hand cannons, because if I am flying through the air or doing shots like this where I'm not going to be very accurate on my first shot and I accidentally hit the chest first or the leg, it's harder for me to get up to that crit shot. But once I do get to the crit shot, that's cool. So I think it would be better on PC rather than console, but on console you don't really want to have that much stickiness when it comes to you not being able to be that accurate. When it comes to PvE combat, I would much rather have 13 rounds from backup mag than any kind of stability perk on single shot weapons such as hand cannons. But in Crucible, it's kind of like what you want to use. I probably would rather go to counterbalance, but when it comes to fusion rifles in the Crucible, I really like targeting adjuster because I can just aim kind of lower to the legs, and because it doesn't matter if I hit crit or not, it can stick to targets a lot easier just by aiming down and letting the natural kick of the gun just adjust itself around the body of the target. And it makes it to where I don't have to be nearly as accurate. I can kind of just walk around corners and stab my fusion, and as long as I have it on the body when the fusion goes off, it normally will hit target 9 out of 10 times, especially with the roll that I have on my fusion, which in my opinion I think is the god roll for the air intel. Under pressure and high impact reserves, they always stay procced because I start with 2 rounds, so the under pressure accuracy and stability perk is all good. Then I have more damage from the high impact reserves by having it at the end of the rounds, and then I have a targeting adjuster on that, and with the unflinching chest piece plus the targeting adjuster helmet. Then on top of that, to finish it off, I have 5 grenade charge mods mixed with the getaway artist, so if the fusion rifle doesn't kill them and at least I hit them with like 2 or 3 rays, the getaway artist usually just finishes them off. So it probably pisses a lot of Crucible players off, but I don't play Crucible that much. But since I've had this weapon, I actually play it a lot more than I used to. It's just a really fun fusion to use, and targeting adjuster on fusion rifles is slept on. I don't necessarily recommend it in the PvE combat, but in Crucible, I mean, just aim their body and it's good. The reason I always recommend Icarus grip in PvE fusion rifles is, of course, it's more accurate in the air, but it also has a hidden perk where it has lingering effects. So if you bunny hop, it'll proc the Icarus grip, and then when you land, it'll still give you the compactness of the fusion projectiles, so they all stand together. So you can see right here where I'm kind of just bunny hopping around. Whether I have an air intel or any kind of legendary fusion on, by having that on, it makes the rays stay all together, so my shots are more accurate, especially when I'm turning and blind firing towards targets. I'm able to hit them a lot more than if I didn't have the Icarus grip. So it's not just for in-air accuracy, you can still bunny hop around and shoot your targets and still maintain that accuracy buff from the lingering effect. But that is it for today, Guardian. I cannot wait for Shadowkeep and to test everything to see how the game has changed and evolved for the new Armor 2.0 system, plus whatever else we don't even know about yet. But if you want to support, you can hit me up at paypal.me/Rostopoulos for gear support so I can make higher quality videos. This community is growing day by day, bigger and stronger with more beasts joining up. If it's not too much and you want to join our beast squad, you can also hit join right now for $4.99 a month, get early access to videos and other perks, as well as customized build options and one-on-one to me anytime for live streaming or any questions you might need answered. I'm here for you guys. Thanks for tuning in as always. You can also hit me up at teespring.com/Rostopoulos for a keepsake or souvenir. It's been my pleasure, and I'll see you next time.
In space.